Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Professional American. Today's episode is going to be one specifically on a topic, unlike last time, which was kind of an introductory episode. This is going to be a topic-specific episode. This one's going to be about business startup, the trials and tribulations of small business ownership. As a lot of you know, because this is how you found me, I am the owner of The Bearded Detailer, also Tales of Honor podcast, which I do consider to be a business. And so I know a little bit about this since I'm entering my 5th year of doing this. I'm no way, shape, or form an expert. I can always, as I say about many topics, I can tell you what not to do. I'm an expert in what not to do, but not an expert in what you should do. But I've received some interest in this topic, so I figured why not dive into it, do an episode on it. So we're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover what kind of needs to be done in order to get yourself started, the pros of owning your own business, and the cons of owning your own business as well. So a little bit of everything. I do have some questions that were asked. Instead of doing a Q&A at the end of this one, like I kind of want to do, I'm gonna try to interweave these into the episode because I know 2 of them are kind of related to each other. They're pretty much the same question, and so I'm gonna kind of weave them all in here since they're all kind of topic related. All right, so let's start off first with a little bit about how I got started with my business. I was working for, and I guess we can not use names here to be nice, and not that it really matters. Anyone who wants to have a chat with me knows this story already, but I had a job at, let's just say, the corporate world. I hate using that term, but that's what it was. I had a good paying job at a local company that was a very big company. And I was doing a lot of manual labor / computer work. I know those two usually don't go hand in hand, but in this case they did. And long story short, there was a lot of office politics, which I know is a thing at damn near every big business. That, first of all, I will always try to do what I feel is right, morally right, and what I was seeing at that location was less than right. There were a lot of rules set in place in order that would prevent things from happening. So essentially, I guess I'll just break it down. I was part of a records holding facility. And in this facility, there were physical copies of every transaction that had happened for this business over the years. And the company was working toward getting those physical records digitized, which makes a lot of sense. A lot of companies are doing this because a lot of companies realize that they're paying to store all these physical copies. So when you have these records, some records are more important than others, so they have to be kept longer than others, and so there are different retention codes when you can destroy them, if you are allowed to. There were some that were supposed to be indefinite; they were not allowed to be destroyed. So for the most part, a lot of them could be digitized, and then once they were put on a computer, they can go directly into the trash. And by directly into the trash, I mean they had to pay a company to securely destroy them. So shred, incinerate, whatever they would do. So my job was to physically remove them from the shelf, pack them up onto a pallet. They were in boxes, standard size, paper-sized boxes. Send them to whatever department was requesting them to digitize and review them. And then either they would get stored back on the shelf, depending on their retention date, or they would get packed up and sent out for destruction. Simple as that. that was the physical end of it. On the digital end of it, sometimes we would have to go in and mark it as missing. Either somebody took them out, track them down, find out who had them last. Sometimes legally retention codes could be changed. There was a paperwork process that had to be done and rules that had to be followed to prevent things from just, oopsie, it's missing. So that was our job. And once I started getting asked to change retention codes without proper paperwork, that's when I started seeing a problem. I'm like, okay, why? So I was asking a lot of questions like, why? I've always been a person to ask. If you see something that's wrong, you should probably ask why. Why is this happening? And I wasn't saying no. Sometimes I was, because no, I can't do that because this rule says I cannot. So you need to provide me this paperwork in order for me to do what you want me to do. I'm not always a big stickler for certain things like this, but sometimes it's like, I don't mind helping somebody out, doing a favor, but when it starts crossing lines of, hey, I could get fired for this, that's when I start having a problem. So I was pushing back on some of this, and even at the management level, I was pushing back saying, hey, we cannot do that here. You need to either take this someplace else, or you need to give me the correct paperwork. That was the office politics. It ended up coming down to, ultimately, it led to myself and my coworker, who got hired at the same time to do the same job, getting fired. Fired wasn't the term that was used. We were pulled in off of an 80 pallet job, and let's just say one pallet was able to hold safely 40 boxes. So 40 boxes on 80 pallets. That's a lot of boxes. They pulled us off of that job right around lunchtime to tell us that we had worked ourselves out of the job. Now, we had just started this job. And they said, you did such a good job. You're no longer needed here anymore. Congrats. You worked yourself out of a job. Meanwhile, we're sitting in a building that is filled with boxes that still needed to be gone through. And they just pulled us off of an 80-box job. We knew there was stuff coming, and we had always kind of questioned if this day was going to come because, again, office politics. And I know I simply asked, do you want us to leave now, or do we have to the end of the day? And we were told, well, you're getting paid to the end of the day, so we don't care. You can stay and finish out your day, or you can leave. I assumed, well, if I'm getting paid at the end of the day, fucking see ya. I am done. So I had just taken it. I'd had enough of that crap, and I'd been there for only a year and a half ish. It was a little less than a year and a half, and we were under new management at that time. Our manager had retired, and once he left, he had actually done a pretty good job of leaving us alone. As long as we got our job done, he didn't care what we did, which I am a big fan of management who goes, this is what needs to get done. I don't care how you do it. Just get it done. It's kind of, this is the destination. I don't care what road you take to get there. So long as no one gets hurt or killed, get to the destination. And for the most part, there was some speed bumps here and there, but for the most part, that's what we did. We got what we needed to get done. Sometimes we would leave early. Sometimes we would come in a little bit later, but we always got the job done. So I think that's what really had pissed me off, is the fact that, this new manager, who we did know, she had had her hands in this project since the beginning of our start, but she now was our manager and a direct supervisor. And when she came in, and we did later find out that there was a large monetary goal, or reward, I should say, that if this project got done within a certain amount of time, she was going to receive some money. Herself and the department, mostly herself. So there was obviously some gain there for her to get the job done, and I was just the roadblock. Slowing down that bonus is what I would later find out. Nonetheless, that's a little bit how I left the corporate world. I am very thankful for that job, though. Without that job, I would not have. I mean, the timing was perfect. Around that time of having that job is when my wife and I were looking for houses. So we had the financial backing. The banks could see that I had a stable job. Little did they know. I had a stable job. My wife had a stable job. We had good income coming in, and we could pay the mortgage. So fantastic. The timing was perfect. We ended up getting our house probably about six or 7 months prior to me being let go. So that was the kicker. That was the kick in the face was, hey, I know you have this brand new house, and everyone at work knew I had a brand new house. You can't pay for it anymore. Bye-bye. No more money for you. So I left not on my own will, but I did leave. Which I'm not a big fan of unemployment and government handouts, but I will say, unemployment is something that you pay into, so you might as well capitalize it on when you absolutely need it. And in this situation, I needed it. I had I had nothing else to fall back on at that point. I was left with no other options. So I did what I could, and I started looking around for other jobs, realizing that nothing would check the boxes for what myself and my family needed from me. I have flip-flop for between, I've gone from job to job so many times since leaving college and moving down to where we live now. And it was getting frustrating, and no one wants to move jobs constantly. Everyone wants to get that one thing that you can do for a while. And I had burned out of a couple other places prematurely. I had left for better I had left some jobs for better opportunities. I was hoping that this job that I just got fired from was going to be a more long-term solution. Maybe not in that position, but that position was my foot into the foot in the door to get further into this company. That was my plan. So I was looking around, realizing that so many other jobs just weren't checking the boxes at that time for the family. They had to be within specific hours. They had to pay a certain amount, and I ultimately I had to like it. So those are the three things I think that, those are the three requirements we had for the family. And when I saw that none of those were really working at that time, I had to start thinking about other options. I don't remember who had pitched the idea, but I do remember some of the early supporters of myself starting a detailing business, and I will forever be thankful for people like Eric. Eric knows who he is, and Alex, who supported me. They were day zero to day one people that helped me take what I thought was just a weird idea and go, oh man, I could actually make some money off of this and maybe turn this into something more than just a hobby. I've always been, at least in my adult life, I've always been some sort of car enthusiast. I liked cars and trucks, in high school. I liked trains as a kid, so I guess that's automotive in some form. It's transportation. But I liked cars and trucks. I really started getting them in high school, and then going and, once I was able to get that taste of freedom of driving a car, it just kind of sealed the deal on that, realizing that I love cars. So I've always been geared around that. So I had the passion. The passion was there, of something I was interested in. So that was number one. Number one was finding something I was interested in and passionate about. Step two was having the work drive, which I've always been a very motivated person to get work done. I may not be the best at what I do, but I will always work to be the best at what I do. I'm always going to have that drive to make myself better. So that was there. I just needed some ideas and some support, which they came. So that was how the Bearded Detailer really started. And at first it was, I'm going to start this as something to get me by until I find the next thing. But then I realized this is the next thing for me. I realized that there was not, once I had a taste of what I was doing, there was no going back. I could not go back to a corporate environment. I couldn't. And we'll go into why here in a little bit. But that is essentially how the Bearded Detailer started. And so we'll go into, like I said, some questions regarding starting your own business. So we'll go into that here. And actually, I'm going to pull up my phone real quick because I know specifically some questions got asked to me in a text message, and I forgot to write them down. All right, so it looks like I already had those written down, which is good. So moving on here. So I know one of the biggest questions is that I've received is, how do you know when it's time to make the switch from the corporate world to starting your own business? Related to that, what's another question I have here is, when did you know it was time to leave? And did you have an exit strategy? Would you start actually this next one is, we'll cover that one later. So to answer those two questions there is, how did you know? Well, for me, that was real simple. I was told to leave. So for me, that was real simple. I'm very fortunate that I didn't have to make that decision to leave. And it was kind of made for me. But I guess in a way, I did play a part in that decision because I chose not to go back. And so for me, that was very easy. And, like I said, the decision was made for me. The decision to not go back and to continue on, it just came down to not wanting to deal with the bullshit anymore. So I guess it comes down to that. That's what I'd say. If you are not happy doing what you're doing, and this really goes for anything. This doesn't even have to be starting your own business. If you're not happy, only you know when you are happy. So if you're not truly happy doing what you're doing, you have the power to change that. I know it sounds so simple, but it is. It actually is that simple. Now, is it going to be easy? No. I mean, maybe it might be easier for some people than others, but it's not going to be easy. I know they say talk is cheap, but it really is easy enough to just make a change. Now, with that one change is going to come a landslide of other changes. So if you're not happy doing your job, let's say you're an accountant and you are just tired of doing it. What I would suggest is sit down and look at why you are not happy doing what you're doing. Are you not happy doing the actual physical task itself, or are you not happy with the environment that you're in? If the answer is the task itself, well, then you need to make an adjustment. You need to find out what task you can be happy doing. If the answer is that you're not happy in the environment that you're in, but you're happy doing the task you're doing, well, then that is going to go to the next part of the chart. Okay, what about the environment is not making you happy? Is it the physical environment? You just physically don't like where you're at. You're stuck in a hole in a basement somewhere. Yeah, that's going to suck. Is your boss a jackass? That's going to, if I had to put money out there, I would say that would be the majority of the time. The majority of the time, managers, direct line supervisors will make and break your working experience. Absolutely. I have had, prime example, I worked security for 2 hospitals. They were in the same network, and they were a couple years apart. The first one, which was my first job out of college, I had an absolute crap manager. Could not stand the guy. Loved the job. Could not stand the manager. And I left after a year. Just before a year. Now, it was good timing that my first daughter was born, so I ended up being a stay-at-home dad for a bit. Worked out good. The second time I did that same exact job was at a different location, but same network, so all the same hospital policies existed. But my manager was fantastic. My direct line supervisor and my manager were fantastic, and I loved the job, and I did it for several years before moving on to what I thought was going to be, and it ended up being a better job opportunity for me. I left that job to go work in car sales, which that's a whole other thing in itself. So right there, two identical positions. The pay was the same. The job responsibilities were the same. The campuses were different, which it plays a little bit into it, but the managers were different, and their styles of managing were also different. And I know for me personally, and again, it's different for every person, but for me personally, I like a hands-off approach. You tell me what you want done, and that's it. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to thrive in that environment because you're not going to micromanage me. You're not going to tell me how. Now, there might be specifics like, hey, you have to do this one thing this way, otherwise XYZ will happen. But for me, that manager style is I thrive in that environment of get to this destination. I don't give a shit which car you take to get there. So right there, I would gladly say that the majority of times when you are unhappy at your job, it's probably because of some direct line supervisor or manager. So then you have to look at, okay, what's the next solution for that? Do you complain? Do you take that up a chain of command to do something about that? Or do you maybe find another, so I guess the next step would be, well, if you like the job, if you like the task you're doing, but don't like the work environment, well, then you need to find another location to do said task, but hopefully under better conditions. Now that can get slippery. That's a slippery slope because, then you're just going to be bouncing around from company to company, finding a manager that you like, knowing that managers can change just as quickly as you can change jobs. So there's a lot of questions that have to be asked. If it's a coworker environment, well, I would hope there are policies in place to help you address things that are not good, some sort of toxic work environment, which again can also come down to your manager. I'm a firm believer that shit rolls downhill, and the people at the bottom are usually not happy because of the people at the top. Most of the time, it's a general statement. Please don't lump that in with saying that it's all the reasons, but let's face it, some reasons are self-inflicted. So, that could be a third term, a third reason there. Are you unhappy because of you? Is it something that you're doing? It's very possible. Maybe you're the asshole. If you look around your work environment and you can't find the asshole in the room, there's a good chance it's probably you. So take that into consideration as well. Maybe you need to make some mental and physical changes in your own life that would make everything happier as well. Sometimes you can't blame it on other people. Sometimes you have to accept responsibility that you're part of the problem. And that takes a very big person to do that. And I know we're kind of getting into a time, I've noticed it more and more in society today that we're always looking to blame the problem on somebody else and not look in a mirror and go, I play a part in this. So I think self-accountability and responsibility is important in that decision of leaving as well. So if let's just say, for example, you don't like the task you're doing anymore. So we'll go back to option 1 there. Well, then you have to find something else to do. So how do you do that? I think everyone is passionate about something, whether it's a hobby or your job or something that somehow falls into neither of those categories. Everyone's passionate about something. Maybe it's something you're passionate about but never actually applied yourself to. I'm kind of blanking on an example of this, but I know, let's say farming. I mean, this is an example that we're actually kind of talking about in my own family. My wife is very passionate about aspects of farming, but it's something we've never really applied ourselves to until more recently when we acquired some chickens. I grew up working. I did some work on a horse farm when I was a kid. That was my first job, was actually mucking stalls and stringing fence and stacking hay on a horse farm. So I grew up with it a little bit, and I grew up in a farming community, but my wife really didn't. So getting chickens was really our first-hand experience into that world, and she's realized it's something that she's actually kind of passionate about. So, but it's something we've never really applied. especially in a large scale operation. So maybe it is something that you've never done before, but you feel like you could be very passionate about. What I would suggest in that field is find a way to volunteer somewhere first before actually leaving your job. I will also say, you need to also realize that you may be unhappy at this job, but right now that job is giving you a paycheck, so long as you're doing your job right, I guess. And money doesn't grow on trees, so you should probably plan an exit strategy. And actually, that was one of the questions here is did I have an exit strategy? I did not. I kind of recommend it. For most people, I would recommend an exit strategy. Because again, you're going to need money. So unless you have money saved, or really good at flying off the seat of your pants, I would recommend volunteering somewhere, or maybe get an apprenticeship on the weekends, or whatever you can do to look at another aspect of where to go. We're going to stick with the farming example here, just because it's on the top of my head. If you think that becoming some form of produce or animal or livestock producer, if you're thinking about that as something you're passionate about, maybe go find a farm that's local to you that will allow you to volunteer your time. Heck, maybe get paid. I don't know, but maybe that it's not even a monetary payment. Maybe it's getting paid in eggs or vegetables or meat. Volunteer your time to find out the inner workings of what's going on. So that really can be that you can apply that to many, many places. I know liability is a big thing these days. People don't want to take on volunteers or apprentices because of, insurance and whatnot. But I think the smaller the business you go, look, I know for me, if somebody volunteered their time to help me with detailing and all they said though was, look, I'll do anything. I will sweep your garage floor. You don't even have to pay me. I just want to learn. I would hop on that person in a second. Maybe not physically, but I would jump at the opportunity to have someone learn from me and help and lend a hand whenever I would need it. That would be phenomenal. So that's a way into another world as well. So I would plan. That would be one plan for an exit strategy. If it's something you are passionate about and have some experience in, maybe dabble with it on the weekends. Maybe start doing it on the weekends and seeing if you can at least, turn a couple bucks doing it on your off time. If it is something like detailing, I've known people that they'll do it on the weekends when they're not at work. And maybe that is enough of a creative outlet for you that doesn't actually require you to leave your current job. It's a separate outlet. Maybe you're not happy at your job because you're just too bored and you need something to have an outlet doing, and that can also do that. So that might break up enough of the monotony to make you satisfied with what you're doing on your job because you know you have something else to do when you're not there. That can get busy though, because then you never have a day off to relax unless you plan it. So that I do recommend an exit strategy when leaving a more structured corporate environment to go off and do your own thing. Let's move from that because I think I've beaten that one down. I could probably go on about that for a while. Let's see here. So let's see. Did I answer that? How do you know when it's time to make a switch? So for me, it comes down to happiness. I'll answer that one in one word: happiness. Am I content and happy doing what I'm doing? Does the job I'm doing check all the boxes that I absolutely need for myself and my family? Does it pay the bills? Do I like doing it? And does it fit a schedule that works for my family? That I think those are three questions that are great to ask yourself doing anything. It's really important. I think all the, you need money to live in this world. Unfortunately, you need money. So you need to sit down and carve out what the bare necessities you need to survive is going to be. Then you need to know if you're passionate about it. We just talked about that. And you also need to know schedule. So do you have time, one, for yourself, because yourself is the most important person to you, period. If you don't care about yourself, how do you expect anyone else to care about you? Do you have time for yourself? Do you have time for your spouse? Do you have time for your kids? In that order. At least in my opinion, that is the order in which you should be addressing other people. Those are the three big markers that I view for continuing on in any field. Let's see here. Then it was, when did you know it was time? I think that goes back to the other ones. And I think those three questions actually work out good for whether you should start something or continue into it. So take that for what it is. Exit strategy, we got that one. Okay. So let's just say you've decided that, you do the whole fuck this place thing and throw your desk upside down, and you want to do something different. You already have a job picked out. You already know what you want to do. Let's just say you don't, and I guess this really applies to whether you're going to just up and leave or if you're going to slowly make the transition. You need to do a few things. First of all, you need to have some form of a business plan, and I think you can really get into the weeds with this, but you do kind of have to have a goal, what you want to do. I've heard people go as far as saying, how much money you need to do this and this and this, and I think that does vary on what it is you're actually going to do. For me, it kind of worked out nice because I already had a building. I have a 2-car garage attached to my house, so I had a location. I know a lot of detailers start in their home garage, so that worked out for me. I was already paying a mortgage, so I didn't have to worry about a lease or renting another place. So that's good. So you need to figure out your location, what you need to do the startup. Again, bare minimum. Yeah, everyone would love to go out and just spend $1 million to get everything they need to get going, but you need to start at the bare minimum because, one, if it fails, you're not out that much money. If it succeeds, well, then you succeeded on a shoestring, and that's actually kind of a good thing because it teaches you to deal with the minimum possible. It makes you a little bit more hungry, and you also learn a lot, and then you also have more money to put aside to invest in the future. So that's step number one. Step number two, you do need to come up with a fictitious name. Now, this could vary from state to state. I'm going to strictly talk about Pennsylvania because it's what I know. It's where I live. In Pennsylvania, you do have to have a fictitious name, and there is a form for that. Of course, there is. It is form, what is the name of it here? DSCB:54-311. That is the form needed to register a fictitious name with the Pennsylvania Department of State Bureau of Corporations and Charitable Organizations. There is a $70 fee. There is a $70 fee, and I am now seeing a veteran reservist-owned small business fee exemption, which would have been nice. But it looks like this got revised in 2017, the year after I registered mine. That would have been nice. Oh well. So it's a $70 fee. You fill that out. I know on their website, you are able to search to see if the name that you want is currently registered. So that is something important. I think is very important, especially these days with social media and whatnot. Spend a day or however long you need to search around to see if the name that you want to pick is registered by anybody else. And it becomes very important because I'll tell you, I've had a few other bearded detailers in the last 5 years come across my way, and they've all asked me if they can use the name. I'm like, and I've told them no. I mean, at a certain point, you have to stand up for your own brand. You really do. So I'm pretty sure every single one of them has changed their name. One changed it to Bearded Details, I believe, if I'm correct. But I don't know, and honestly, I haven't gone back to check. It's been, I think, 2 years now since that's happened. So spend some time. Make sure, if you want to do it on social media, make sure the Instagram handle, Facebook handles are available. Make sure a website, if you do plan on getting a website, make sure the website is available, the domain name. Maybe you make some changes. Heck, for this podcast alone, I had some other names picked, and then before Professional American. And when I realized most of those were picked, then it actually one day popped into my head, Professional Americans. So it was actually a good thing not to act on impulse for making a name. So you need to register a fictitious name. And what this will do is essentially it separates, this is going to put the ball in motion for separating yourself, your name, from the actual business, kind of. Then you also need to register your entity with the Department of Revenue. Now, for Pennsylvania, their website is actually pretty good. The Department of Revenue, you can register and file your taxes all online, which is really nice. The eTides website is very, very good. And I will say they have this really nice form, which I will put a link in the show notes for. It is looks like it's the REV 588TR10-20. Starting a Business in Pennsylvania, a Guide to Pennsylvania Taxes. This is actually pretty good. I looked through it pretty quick. I'm not going to go down through it because there's a lot of information that I would just be rehashing. But essentially, this is going to, it says right here, this guide will covers 3 general areas that apply to many businesses. Business taxes, reporting Pennsylvania income, and strategies for success. I probably don't fit any of these strategies for success if I were to read down through them. But this is really good. So click on this. It'll be in the show notes. You can go over and look at that. Your state, if you're not in Pennsylvania, might have something similar. So you're going to have to do a little bit of your own homework. But I think this is actually pretty good. And I think it goes in a little bit different order than I would suggest here. But it does say step 1, confirm requirements with your financial institution and insurance company, which that's a good suggestion. If you want to start a bank account for it, make sure that you can do that. Maybe you need a loan to get started, do that. If it's something that you're going to have to be insured with, make sure you can do that with your insurance company or find someone that can. It says check for special registrations, if applicable. Confirm your professional licensure is current, only applicable to professional LLCs or professional corporations. All of the business structures skip this to the next step. Check with local municipality concerning taxes, zoning requirements, local licenses and permits, and any other regulations. This is actually pretty important. I think I actually did not do this. I will be very frank with you. I did not do this. I did it in retro. I did it in retro. I did look back and I'm fine. Mostly because I don't do high volume. I do a couple cars a week at most. I've restricted myself to that. 1, for burnout, but 2, I don't have a waiting area, so I don't have people standing around. I'm not selling food. I'm not doing any of those things. People are just dropping their cars off and picking them up. And I maybe at most have a conversation with the person when they come to pick their car up, and we chat for a bit. That's at most. So I'm not breaking any rules here, and I didn't need any other local licenses or permits. Register your business structure. So if it is an actual physical structure that you need to do that, you have to do that. It goes over that here. Register your fictitious name, which I covered, and you need to apply for a federal employer identification number, so an FEIN or EIN. Every state's going to be a little different, so again, can't reiterate that enough. You are able to do most of this online. I think the fictitious name in Pennsylvania I had to print out and mail in. It honestly didn't take that long. The tax information, I was able to do that online. That was good. So you might be able to do that for your state as well. So I'll put a link in the show notes for this guide. I think it's pretty good. So you can go over that. Communication would be next. Setting up some form of communication, whether it's going to be setting up a phone number, if you want a phone number specific to the business. I know for me, my personal number is my business number. That number is tied to me and has been since college. So I'm not getting rid of that number anytime soon. Email. I mean, shit. Gmail is free for almost it's free. There's no excuse to not have an email address. Now, I know like this podcast is professionalamericanpodcast@gmail.com. I also don't plan on investing a ton of money into this podcast, so free is fantastic. If you want to start out with a free account, you do that. You can always change later to something more fancy, like my business is info@thebeardeddetailer.com. That actually was done through Squarespace, which is who I host my websites with. They made that pretty easy too. So some form of communication, whether it's email or, I mean, if you don't have an email or a phone number these days for your business, I don't know what the hell's going on. But I wish you success. And that can also be website. I personally feel every business should have a website. That's my personal opinion. There are benefits to social media. So if you want to set up social media as well, you can. Instagram, Twitter. Oh, I shudder at the name of Twitter. Facebook, whatever you want to do, you can set those up as well. And those are good to have in a relationship with your website, though. They should all be tied together. And I really think your main purpose should be to drive people to your website. I know social media, we've gotten to this point where everyone needs social media. They feel like they need it, and they're on it so much. But I think the main drive, at least it's the way it used to be, and I feel we should really go back to it, is to drive traffic to your website. So spend the time, and if you need to spend the money to get a good website, do it. If you've ever, I forget the statistic, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the number was, if a website doesn't grab you within 3 seconds, most people don't do business with that company. And I have found that for myself. I've gone onto websites and I've looked and I've tried. I tried real hard to want to like that company, but the website just turns me off and I'm done. I'll find another solution, because it's something so simple, if I can't find it on your website, I'm done. So keep that in mind when you are setting up something for your business. Is you may not, not everyone's like you, obviously. So you need to get as many people's opinion about that as possible. If someone says it's not easy, don't just tell them, oh, no, it totally is. You just need to do this and this. No, listen to that person. If they don't think it's easy, then you need to figure out a different way of doing it. You need everyone to be able to go, oh yeah, it was so simple. I just did this. You need everyone to be able to say that, or the overwhelming majority to say that. Okay, we got communication down. Got my paper here, hot off the press. We're going to go into the pros and cons and the trials and tribulations of small business ownership. So, I have 3 things for each here, and I'm sure there's more. I know there's more, but I also am coming up on 45 minutes here, and I don't want to go on forever. So, the pros. We'll start with the pros. You know what? No, we're going to start with the cons. Everyone always starts with the pros. We're going to start with the cons here. The cons of owning your own business or starting your own business. For me, again, this is in my opinion. The downtime. There can be downtime when you're starting your own business, at least in my experience. Specifically, in my experience, being automotive detailing, the winter here in the north, Pennsylvania, for whatever reason, I've worked in car sales, in car service, and now car detailing. The winter always, for whatever reason, dies down during those 3 times. And it kind of makes sense. First, you have the holidays over the winter time. You have, Christmas. Christmas is a big money suck for a lot of families, understandably. Then you have the weather. The weather, the joke I've always said for Pennsylvania is, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. It'll change. Like yesterday, it was rainy, and then blue sky sunny, turned nice at the end of the day. Just randomly changed. So the weather plays a big part of it for me. And I know you would think that people would want to have their cars detailed and get all the salt off of it. But I think a lot of people, at least I have found, that their mentality is, why do it? It's just going to get dirty again. So let me just wait until the winter salt and crap is off the roads, and then I'll come and get it done in the spring. So I kind of knew this going into it. So a little bit of research, market research, for whatever it is you're deciding to do, it should come in handy. I've told a lot of people that with anything automotive, expect a winter slump. You might get some random upticks here and there, but in general, the winter slump is really tough. And I knew it going into it, but it doesn't make it any easier. It just kind of made it easier to prepare for. So my income goes down in the winter. I make up for it in the spring, summer, and early fall. So my spending has to go way down in the wintertime. I have to find alternate sources of income. I do drive Uber as a way to pick up money come like October, November. I do that to try to earn some extra cash. I do sell products online, so it's not detailing related, so automotive products. Anyone who has found me from the Volkswagen world knows I do wiring harnesses for retrofits. I sell some European parts. I sell cleaning supplies as well, too. So that is detailing related. I can still sell the cleaning supplies. And part of that is educating people on how to clean their vehicles and use these products to do that. So the downtime is bad. I have found ways to fill that downtime. I also have a podcast. Not this one. I have Tales of Honor podcast. So I write that twice a week. So twice a week, I know I have something to do. I have to write, I have to record, I have to edit and produce a podcast twice a week. And I've been doing that for 4 years. So and I mean, I do it year round, but I know that helps fill some time over the wintertime. Also, the wintertime downtime is usually when I'm the most creative. When I have time to sit and be in my own head, which is a really scary place to be, I'm the most creative, which is really nice. Unfortunately, it's when I'm the most creative is when I have the least amount of money to be able to act on those creative ideas, which might be a good thing, but I have yet to accept that fact. So the downtime. Also, failures is a very, very real con of owning a business. Whether you're the only employee or you have other employees. When you work for somebody else, if there's a failure, it's very easy to pinpoint it to somebody else. Whether it is somebody else's fault or not, it is very easy to go, well, I failed because of XYZ. When you're the only one, it's your fault. It doesn't matter. I mean, we can go back to downtime. It's my fault that I have downtime. I could very easily, if I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs, that means it's my fault that I have not found something to do to not be sitting around twiddling my thumbs. So the failures are very, very much your own. Whether you screw up doing whatever it is that you're doing, whatever task it is, it's your fault. You can't blame anybody else. It's your fault. Which, again, you should be you should be accepting responsibility for your actions no matter what. But it's very real accountability. So failures, you have to own them more than you have to own your own children. That says a lot. And last is money, which they kind of all tie in together. Money can be tight at times because you are either investing into the future of something or there's not as much revenue coming in. For me, it's the not as much coming in, which can be very, very frustrating. That goes back to failures and downtime. That's a big con. There can be times where money is tight. You have to tell yourself like, I have this money, but I can't spend it because I have to have it set aside for this or this. So that can be very frustrating, and it is a pretty big con. Now for the pros, because everyone likes positivity. This I could actually sum up these 3 bullet points into one word, and that is freedom. For me, I wanted freedom from the corporate bullshit. That's what it comes down to. I wanted independence, independent freedom from all of that. I wanted to be able to make my own schedule, own my own success, and have control over what's going on. Those are my 3 bullet points here. Schedule, I have kids, so we were paying an ass load, and your definition of an ass load might be different than mine, but it was a metric shit ton of money for both of our kids to be in some form of childcare, whether it was daycare or after school care because the bus got done, school got done before my work day was done. So that was a lot of money. It was almost No, it was a mortgage payment. It was the same amount as our mortgage payment in just childcare. So we were essentially paying 2 mortgages every month. One was our actual house, and the other was just so our kids would have somewhere to go while we were at work. That's a lot of freaking money. And that side note, when people say that they understand what it's like to have a kid because they have a dog, that's where I draw the line, because I don't know too many people who spend a mortgage payment on getting someone to watch their dog. But I digress. That's a lot of money. So being able to not work in that standard corporate environment, work from home, which was beneficial to me. I know it's not going to be the same for everybody, but working from home in my own business allowed me to not have my kids in daycare. And I will not forget, because we didn't cancel daycare right away when I lost my job, because we didn't know what was coming. Once I made the full-time decision that, no, I am all in, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to own my own business. I'm not doing anything else. We took the kids out, and that was less money that had to get spent. Yes, I was making less money, but we were spending less money. So they canceled them. It kind of cancels each other out. Being able to get my kids on and off the bus every single day. Being home for them if they are sick, if there's a snow day, all of these things. Doctor's appointments, whatever it is. That's my schedule. I can plan, hey, I cannot take appointments on Tuesday because of XYZ. I can do that. There's no more going to my boss and going, hey, I need Tuesday off, maybe, if you'll let me. Or I only need to schedule things for my kids on the weekends or after work hours because my boss is a dick and won't let me get off. So freedom to schedule whatever the hell I want. I mean, some of you know I like to do track days. I love track days. Going up to Pocono is usually where I usually go, Pocono Raceway. But having the freedom, most of those days that I go to is a Tuesday or a Thursday, to just go, all right, Tuesday, I'm not scheduling any work, and half of Monday, because I like to do some prep prior to make sure that I'm good to go, a little shakedown. I'm not scheduling anything for that time because this is what I want to go do. This is something that makes me happy, and I'm going to schedule that time off. I'll work the next day. I'll work more the next day, whatever I need to do. But that's freedom. I love that. The success. This goes back with the failures. They kind of go hand in hand. When you work for somebody else, man, everybody wants to take credit for the success. Everybody does. And good. You should. If you do something great, you should get credit for it. I don't think you should ride that ego, but you should get credit for your successes. And more often than not, when you work in a corporate environment, everyone likes to share the success. When one person does something great, we all succeed. And while that may be true, I feel it is important to point out and recognize individual accomplishment. You may not agree with me. That's totally your choice to not agree with me, but that's my opinion. And when you are a business owner, there's nobody else there. What success is yours is yours. There can be people who help you reach that success, but ultimately, look, I could have people coming to my door saying, I need my car detailed and throwing money at me. But unless I put things into motion and to make that all come together, it doesn't matter. So yes, you can have people there to support you and that help you get to where you need to be. But ultimately, the success of getting things done is yours. So there's no one there to take that from you. So like I said, the success and failures go hand in hand. So when things are good, it's because of you. And when things are bad, it's also because of you. So that's the better way to look at it. And the control. And this kind of comes back to all this as well. You have the control to change something, and which is awesome. If there's a customer that you don't want to deal with, there's no more kissing someone's ass. You can straight up say no, because it's your business. Can I speak to the manager? Well, I am the manager. I'm the owner. I'm the custodian. I'm the appointment coordinator, and I'm the janitor. So, no, I'm not dealing with you. You have that control and the ability to do that. You can't do that in the corporate world. You have to worry about kissing somebody's ass. You have to worry about survey scores. You have to worry about not offending somebody, which today, holy shit, offending someone it's longer than some Aztec stairway to the top of a pyramid. It's insane how long a list of something that can offend somebody. What I just said is probably offensive, and I don't care. It's what it comes down to. I remember I worked as a service coordinator, and I worked as a sales consultant. Both of those are very heavily weighted on survey scores. I specifically, not to go down a hole here, but I feel it's important. I sold a car to a guy. The guy was thrilled. He was so happy. Everything was good. He had great experiences. I liked the guy. I didn't have a problem with him. He didn't have a problem with me. Everything went smoothly. He received the survey after getting home. A couple days after you buy the car, you get a survey, and he went to fill it out. And he crushed me on the survey score. Why? Well, it's not because I was a dick. It's not because I was an asshole. It's because he doesn't like, based on his research, the price of parts and service. Let me tell you, this survey was about his sales experience, not anything else. So he crushed me and the dealership based off of prices set by Volkswagen of America. That affected my survey score and the dealership survey score. And when we called him, because every negative survey had to be followed up on, we called him and he told me, "No, you were great," which hurts because I'm like, yeah, I know I was. So why the hell did you do this? And then you let him know, hey, you're going to get a follow-up emails asking if we reached out to you to make sure everything was okay. Just let him know that we did reach out. He then did not read, when he got the email, he said, no, we didn't reach out, which then it was a double negative. It was a double ding on the survey score. I got crushed. I lost my bonus that month. Was it month or quarter? I think it was quarter. It was my quarterly bonus. I lost it. It was a couple grand. I lost it. And that's without me doing anything wrong. Now imagine if someone just doesn't like the way I say something, even though there's nothing wrong with what I say. They don't like it, or you're always walking on eggshells. Now granted, this was 8 years ago, but I couldn't imagine doing it today. It's even worse. So having to deal with all that little stuff is gone. If I don't like the way something's going, leave. Either I don't have to accept your business, or I don't have to keep you on my property, because ultimately it's my property. So if you come here and you're being an asshole to me, I can stop what I'm doing, you can take your car, and you can leave. Or I don't even have to accept you in the first place. And that control, and there's so much more to control than just saying no to people. Control of how you want your business to go. You get to choose the mission that you want. You get to choose who you donate your money to. If you choose to support any nonprofits, you get that choice. You no longer have to work for somebody who maybe their values don't line up with yours. Something as simple as that. I don't even have to give examples of this. I'm pretty sure you can figure out examples on your own. If you work for somebody and you like your job, but you don't like the values of the company, it doesn't line up with you, that can be that can be something, a dictating factor of whether you stay or not. So I have that choice. I now have the control of the direction of my business, is what it comes down to. So those are the three things here. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure. Okay, there was one. There's two other things here. Paying yourself in taxes was another question. Also, who to talk to for help when starting off. I suggest is in regards to who to ask for help. There are plenty of businesses. There's lots of small businesses. I would be willing to bet that you are not the only one that has done or will do or is currently doing what you want to do. It may be a small window, but there are other people out there. I suggest asking other business owners, especially small business owners. If you know someone that has a business, heck, I've had people reach out to me saying, "What do you do?" And I've told them everything I've pretty much told you in this podcast so far. And so there's lots of people. And like I said at the very top, They may not be able to tell you what to do, but they definitely can tell you what not to do. And that kind of ties into paying yourself in taxes. I kind of covered the taxes. I will give you one suggestion that was given to me by good friend Kate. She told me this with her business, photography, that she suggested with taxes, and I have since adopted this and really like it. Get yourself a business checking account with your bank and get yourself a business savings account. Now, what I now do because of her is when somebody comes here, and so our tax rate is 6% in Pennsylvania. Let's just say, hypothetically, they pay me $100 for the service, and they get taxed. That's $106. Customer pays me $106 here. I'm responsible to take that $6 of tax and pay it to the state at the end of the quarter. What I was doing was just holding on to it at first and hoping that it was still there at the end of the quarter for me to pay. That sucks, especially for me, because when I see something is in an account, I see that as money that can be spent. That was not good. So what I then did, because of her recommendation, was to take the money that I collected for taxes, transfer it into a savings account, and let it sit there to the end of the quarter. Then I know the money is there. And what I started doing was, instead of just moving the 6% over, I moved 7%. So just that one extra percent doesn't seem like a lot, but not only is then that 1% going to sit in my account after the 6% is gone, it's just going to be money that's sitting in that account, and it does collect interest in a savings account, albeit a penny here and there. I mean, it's insane what savings accounts what they accrue, but that is a big suggestion, is what I would recommend people to do. That was a great recommendation that Kate gave me, and I would recommend that to other people. So business checking, business savings, and transfer a portion of every sale that is taxed, at least, into a savings account, so that it will be there at the end of the quarter or the end of the half or the year, depending on how you were set up. I'm set up by quarterly, which is really nice. Set that up there so it's there at the end of the quarter for you to pay your taxes. That's what I will say. Everything else regarding taxes, you'll have to look into your local regulations for that. But that's what I recommend for paying your taxes. It makes things very, very easy. Paying yourself is something that it varies from person to person. In the beginning, I made a plan for myself to collect a paycheck. And what I learned real quick was that does not work for how my business runs the way I currently have it. I cannot pay myself. And what I do instead is every dollar I make either gets reinvested somewhere in the business, whether it's buying more supplies, new equipment, whatever it is. That money goes there, and whatever is left over, if I need a little bit, let's say there's a bill that needs to get paid in the house that I'm coming up a little short on, I can then just transfer that money. I mean, online banking helps a lot in this transaction here, but I can dip a little bit here and there. And so instead of paying myself a paycheck, I only take what is needed outside of our regular expenses. So it's essentially pitching in with the home expenses where I can. Certain bills I cover, certain bills my wife's money covers, but so I do not collect a paycheck. Now, granted, I am a sole proprietorship as well too, so I am my business and my business is me legally. So it's not like I'm using company funds to do, I'm not. Well, I guess where do you draw the line on that? I'm not using company money to go to a strip club, but at the end of the day, if you pay yourself a paycheck, aren't you then using company funds to go to a strip club? Not that I go to strip clubs. I'm using this as a really random example that some people would find weird. So that's the way I look at it is I work for my money. I am my business. My business is me, so therefore it is my money. So instead of paying myself an actual dedicated paycheck, I will just reallocate the funds to what is needed at the time. Otherwise, it sits in my business account. So it is paying myself a paycheck, but it's a slow trickle. Like it may be a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. It's not just a set bi-weekly paycheck. If you have way more income coming in, and maybe you can actually sit down and structure yourself a paycheck. It just didn't work for me specifically. So that kind of does vary business to business. So that it's kind of you have to see where you're at there. Let's see here. There are 2 more questions that have not been covered. First of all, do you have to wear pants? Now, this is a fantastic question. It's probably my favorite topic ever. I find pants very, very restrictive. They are a weapon of the patriarchy. No, you don't have to wear pants, which is awesome. I'm not wearing pants right now because why? You don't have to wear pants. That's what I love about owning your own business, especially working from home. I think a lot of people have discovered what I've been saying for years right now during a lot of work from home and Zoom calls is that pants are overrated. And I hope we don't lose that. I hope that's one thing that doesn't get back to normal when things do. I hope we realize that pants are just bullshit. A more serious note, last question that we'll cover is, would you start a small business now, considering what is going on with small business? And I guess if for some reason someone listens to this in the future, this is referring to what is being called the pandemic and the whole COVID-19 bullshit with business closures and whatnot. And ultimately, my answer is yes, I still would. I think it's tough because when you see what's happened to small businesses in some states over the last year, because we are almost 1 year into 2 weeks to flattening the curve, when you see what's happened, it would kind of make some people go, oh, I definitely don't want to do that because who knows when I can get shut down. There's a lot of restrictions that have been put on. And it's tough because on one hand, there's a part of me that would go, yes. Actually, no. The bigger part of me is absolutely, I still would. Given what I am doing right now, if what happened to me in 2016 happened right now, I would still go down the same road knowing what I know now. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020. I still would. Probably more now than ever, because the reasons of me not going on to another corporate job or staying in the corporate world comes down to, like I said, that whole freedom part and being independent from that world. And I think now more than ever, seeing what companies are doing to their private, not private, but seeing what companies are doing to their employees and what governments are doing to their citizens, I think now is even more important to exercise your freedom and try to become as independent as possible, whether that's starting a new venture or, just not putting up with anyone's crap and going on to something else. So I would say yes, me personally. I think it does depend on the market that you're trying to go into. If it's something that's kind of become obsolete, over last year, maybe not. Like starting your own concert venue may not be a smart decision right now. I know people aren't going to leave their jobs to do that, but I think there is some standing back and realizing the consequences of what you're going to do. There's still some of that. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, and it's a very good question. It all boils down to what your goal is. For me, the goal was self-independence. I wanted to get away from needing somebody for my own success and happiness. And I will wrap it up on that and one other note. One thing my wife and I have found to be very, very true is you do not need a lot of money to be happy. For the longest time, I always thought the saying, money doesn't buy you happiness, was a load of shit that poor people said to make themselves feel better about the position they're in. And I mean, that might be a little harsh the way I said it, but ultimately that's what I felt. And I'm definitely not poor, but I will say that over the last almost 5 years, April will be 5 years. Over the last 5 years, I really have learned that it isn't money that makes someone happy. I'm in a better position both physically and mentally and emotionally right now than I was when I was making almost 40. I was at that job. I was making about $45,000 a year, which I know it doesn't sound like I'm a millionaire, but it's a good wage. It was a very good wage. I am happier now. I'm in a better position now than I was then. My wife also, she changed her job. She left one hospital network to go to a different hospital network. And while she's still doing the same job, the same task, she left an environment that required her to be on call, work weekends. And now, granted, it paid a lot more, almost double. She almost cut her paycheck in half to move to an environment to do the same task, but no weekends and no call. And ultimately, yes, we took a pay cut. And ironically, that happened at the exact same time that I lost my job. So we took a very, very big hit in money. But once we made some recalculations, we drew some new projections, and we took a step back and realized what we did need and did not need. And we came out stronger at the end. We realized that happiness comes from many other things. Spending more time with your wife and kids while your kids can be frustrating. At least mine, I'm sure nobody else has frustrating kids. I'm sure it's just mine. That is beneficial. Being able to just be outside is beneficial. There is value in that. There's value. We put a lot of value in going to a 9-to-5 job and bringing home a paycheck after going to college for 4 years. And man, there is so much more out there. And so I will say, I've had this conversation with people in the past that they're afraid to do something because they have to take a cut in money. Well, I always end up saying the same thing. There's more to life than money. Your mental health, your physical health is more important than any job. I shouldn't say any job because you still need something, but it's out there. So that's what I'm going to wrap that up on. Money can't buy you happiness. And I think one of the recurring themes for this podcast, at least in my life, is if you don't care about you, then you can't expect anybody else to care about you. You are your own best advocate, and that's what we'll end on. So I hope I answered all the questions that were provided to me. I hope I gave a better idea of what it's like to start a business, maintain a business, and leaving a more corporate environment to do that, the trials and tribulations, as I said. And hopefully we did a better job. If I did not, if I missed something, or you want me to elaborate on something, go ahead and you can write in professionalamericanpodcast@gmail.com. You can head over to the website, thebeardeddetailer.com/professionalamerican, and you can submit some questions over yonder. And that's all I got for right now. Head on over to the website for more information, suggestion box. If you have a question you want read on air, you can do that over there as well. Like I said, check out the show notes. I'll have a link to that, the fictitious name application for Pennsylvania, as well as a good their startup guide for Pennsylvania as well. But other than that, that's all I got. This is episode number 3. It's a little longer, hour and 14 it looks like here. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. And if you like this, you know what to do. Leave a rating. Share it with a friend, more importantly, is what I would rather happen. Share it with somebody you know. And we'll see you next time. That's all it comes down to. Remember, make sure you make every day better than yesterday, and that can be on yourself or your environment. Have a good one, everybody. Catch you next time.